Hi, my name is Wendy and this is the Shan Studios YouTube channel. So recently we made a bunch of meditations on mindfulness and some talks on mindfulness. So now I'm going to try and explain a little bit about what mindfulness is. The history of mindfulness is quite extensive. There are a lot of commentaries and a lot of literature on it, but I'm going to try and get the basics. So in the Buddhist context, you'll often hear mindfulness as sati. And sati in the practice context mainly means to diligently and clearly be aware of and pay attention to the body with the physical sensations, the thoughts, the emotions or feelings, and what they call the dharma or the dhamma, which can just mean the nature of things. And in the more modern context, we have Jon Kabat-Zinn's definition, which is widely used, which is mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way. It's paying attention in the present moment, on purpose, non-judgmentally. As you can tell, the definition of mindfulness is quite vast. You hear a lot of things about clearing the mind or having to feel super relaxed. And as you can tell from many of the definitions, there's not really any of those requirements. So when we translate that into direct practice, this can show up in many ways. So why practice mindfulness? In the last few decades, there's been a big increase in research for mindfulness. So if you have a motivation for learning mindfulness, then there's likely research on that topic. And research spans from stress reduction to managing chronic pain to improving sleep quality to better self-regulation, and the list goes on. So there's many reasons to practice mindfulness. And now let's explore some different types of mindfulness practices. And just as the definition is really broad, the kinds of mindfulness practices are also many. We'll start with focused awareness or a concentration practice. So that just means you're kind of narrowing the focus, like a laser sharp focus, to one thing, whether that is concentrating on the breath, the movements of the inhales, the exhales, the spaciousness in between. Maybe it's the body scan, moving from one part of the body at a time, noticing sensations there, noticing mental associations there, and still trying to stay really close to the experience of that body part. And then from the really narrow focus, there's also a broader focus where you're not necessarily using that laser sharp focus, but you are expanding the awareness just to be in a mode of receiving. So maybe you're opening the awareness to the whole body, opening the awareness to sounds as well, and just receiving things as they arise, and then allowing them to fade away when they do. And then often with mindfulness practice, there's an element of contemplation. So it's not always just looking at the breath or the body and bearing down into stillness and being with it and having to suffer through it. There's an element of contemplation where we receive that stimulus, whether it's a physical sensation, a thought, an emotion, and there's an element of discernment. What is the wise thing to do here? Can I find stillness? Is following this train of thought harmful or unhelpful? And in that case, do I redirect? There are different things like this where you receive, you discern, and then you decide on an action or an inaction to take. There are many different kinds of practices, and there's no way I would be able to cover all of them in this short video. So if you want a more in-depth kind of read on the Buddhist side, I really recommend exploring the Satipaṭṭhāna as explained by Bhikkhu Anālayo. And if you want a more sciencey, modern explanation of mindfulness, I really like Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn. I can offer a few tips for the mindfulness practice. The first being diligence and consistency. Just as you wouldn't do 10 sit-ups and then check for abs, trying mindfulness for one session and then seeing if you can suddenly be stress-free or manage stress better or have a perfect night's sleep likely isn't going to give you an accurate view of whether it works for you or not. So definitely be consistent for 8 weeks or 3 months to really get a good look at what the practice is doing for you. The second tip I can offer is just to be really patient with yourself as you're learning. It's very likely that the first time you do a focused awareness practice, the mind will wander many times. And just remembering that there is a learning curve. And also, wherever the awareness goes, the practice can be. So when the mind wanders, just bring the attention there, notice that it's gone, and guide it back. And this might happen 10, 20, 100 times in any practice that you do. Just because you feel like you didn't do a practice perfectly doesn't mean that the practice was for nothing. You're still practicing, you're still cultivating that sense of awareness, and you can definitely still get the benefits of a mindfulness practice. And finally, my last tip would be to really find a teacher that you like, whether it's a Buddhist meditation teacher or if it's a secular mindfulness teacher. Finding a teacher who you can communicate comfortably and clearly with is really important. Throughout your mindfulness journey, it's very likely that you will have many questions, and having a teacher there who is experienced is really important and can be very helpful to your practice. I hope this explanation was helpful. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you like content like this, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you next time. Bye.